From Dhyana and Samadhi, from the Sutra of the Sixth Patriarch. For one whose tongue is ready with good words, but whose heart is impure, Samadhi and Prajna are useless because they are not in balance. On the other hand, when one is good in mind as well as in word, and when the outward appearance and inner feelings are in harmony with each other, then Samadhi and Prajna are in balance. To an enlightened disciple who has realized Prajna in Samadhi, discussion about it is unnecessary. To argue about Prajna or Samadhi as to which comes first places one in the same position with those who are under delusion. Argument implies a desire to win. It strengthens egoism. It binds one to belief in the idea of a self, a being, a living being, and a person. But we may liken Samadhi and Prajna to a glowing lamp and its light. With the glowing lamp, there is light. Without it, there is darkness. Light is the quintessence of the glowing lamp. The glowing lamp is the expression of light. In name, they are two things, but in reality, they are one and the same. It is the same with Samadhi and Prajna. Breathe in, breathe out. And remembering you can go up and down in the vibration with the use of this finger posture. From Vision Quest by Black Elk. Look and you will see the center of the universe. Look at every created thing. As I looked around, I saw that every created thing had a thread of smoke or light going from it. The voice whispered, "This cord that everything created has is what connects it to the Creator. Without this cord, it would not exist." As I watched, I saw that all these threads coming from everything went to the center of the circle where the four directions were one place, the center of the cross. I saw that all these threads were tied together or joined here at this spot. The voice spoke again. This is the center of the universe, the place where all things join together and all things become one. The place where everything begins and ends. The place inside everything created. That's when I understood that all of creation, the seen and the unseen, was all related. The voice spoke one last time. Yes, now you know the center of the universe. Breathe in and breathe out. From Dionysian mysticism, we pray to enter within the super bright gloom, and through not seeing and not knowing, to see and to know that the not to see nor to know is itself the above sight and knowledge. For this is veritably to see and to know and to celebrate super essentially the super essential through the abstraction of all existing things just as those who make a lifelike statue by extracting all the encumbrances which have been placed upon the clear view of the concealed, and by bringing to light, by the mere cutting away, the genuine beauty concealed in it. And it is necessary, as I think, to celebrate the abstractions in an opposite way to the definitions. For we used to place these latter by beginning from the foremost and descending through the middle to the lowest. But in this case, by making the ascents from the lowest to the highest, we abstract everything in order that, without veil, we may know that agnosia, which is enshrouded under all the known, in all things that be, and may see that superessential gloom, which is hidden by all the light in existing things. Breathe in, inhaling the light. Breathe out the darkness. You'll notice that each time I do that, I try to bring the tone higher. So that's bringing about the vibration higher to the higher and higher levels, pushing the edge of the vibrational limits of your soul. From the Mind's Road to God, Saint Bonaventura. Blessed is the man whose help is from thee. In his heart he hath disposed to ascend by steps the vale of tears in the place which he hath set. Since beatitude is nothing else than the fruition of the highest good, and the highest good is above us, none can be made blessed unless he ascend above himself, not by the ascent of his body, but by that of his heart. But we cannot be raised above ourselves except by a higher power raising us up. For howsoever the interior steps are disposed, nothing is accomplished unless it is accompanied by divine aid. Divine help, however, comes to those who seek it from their hearts humbly and devoutly. And this means to sigh for it in this vale of tears, aided only by fervent prayer. Thus, prayer is the mother and source of ascent in God. Therefore, let us pray and say to the Lord our God, conduct me, O Lord, in thy way, and I will walk in thy truth. Let my heart rejoice that it may fear thy name. Breathing in light. Breathing out the dross. Again, we're going to raise the vibrations. From studies in Islamic mysticism, Reynold Nicholson, from Abu Said's Sufi mystical doctrine. The heart's vision is what matters, not the tongue's speech. Thou wilt never escape from thyself until thou slay it. To say there is no God but Allah is not enough. Most of those who make the verbal profession of faith are polytheists at heart, and polytheism is the one unpardonable sin. The whole body is full of doubt in polytheism. Thou must cast them out in order to be at peace. Until thou deny thyself, thou wilt never believe in God. Thyself, which is keeping thee far from God and saying, so and so has treated thee ill, such and such a one has done well by thee, points the way to creatureliness, and all this is polytheism. Nothing depends on the creatures, all depends on the Creator. This thou must know and say, and having said it, thou must stand firm. To stand firm means that when thou hast said one, thou must never again say two. Creator and creature are two. Do not double like a fox, that ye may suddenly start up in some other place. That is not right faith. Say Allah and stand firm there. Standing firm is this, that when thou hast said God, thou shouldst no more speak or think of created things, so that it is just as though they were not. Love that one who does not cease to be when thou ceasest, in order that thou mayest be such a being that thou never wilt cease to be. Breathing in. Breathing out. From the tablets of Baha'u'llah revealed after the Kitabi Iqdas, the Law-i Karmi, or the Tablet of Carmel, and Kalmiti-i Ferdowsiwi, or the words of paradise. The heart's vision is what matters, not the tongue's speech. No sooner had her voice reached that most exalted spot than we made reply. Render thanks unto thy Lord, O Carmel. The fire of thy separation from me was fast consuming thee, when the ocean of my presence surged before thy face, cheering thine eyes and those of all creation, and filling with delight all things visible and invisible. Rejoice, for God hath in this day established upon thee his throne, hath made thee the dawning place of his signs, and the dayspring of the evidences of his revelation. Well is it with him that circleth around thee, that proclaimeth the revelation of thy glory, and recounteth that which the bounty of the Lord thy God hath showered upon thee. Seize thou the chalice of immortality in the name of thy Lord, the all-glorious, and give thanks unto him, inasmuch as he, in token of his mercy unto thee, has turned thy sorrow into gladness and transmuted thy grief into blissful joy. He verily loveth the spot which hath been made the seat of his throne, which his footsteps have trodden, which hath been honored by his presence, from which he raised his call, and upon which he shed his tears. Let's move up in vibration again. Breathe in. Breathe out. We're going to take the final foray into the science for moral law, mystical realities, and quantum science. I'm going to share with you an email that was sent to me by Dr. Rudy Shield, Harvard Emeritus Professor of Astrophysics. And a little bit of what we wrote together about what that means. As science ponders the apparent conclusion that the universe seems to have been constructed with fine tuning for a uniform cloud of expanding gas, the Big Bang, to become galaxies, stars, planets, and physical sentient beings, it is increasingly difficult for science to avoid noticing that the universe seems to have been fine-tuned for this purpose. As scientists, we notice that the universe is fundamentally defined by a dozen arbitrary numbers, which seem to have no relationship to each other, but which seem to have worked out perfectly. And if the numbers were to differ from the values observed, the amazing result of sentient life could not have occurred. The numbers I refer to are the speed of light, c, the Planck constant, h, the Newton gravitational constant, g, the mean ratio of protons to neutrons in our atoms, phi, the electron charge, e, etc. We find that if any of these numbers were off of their observed values by a tiny amount, like increased by 1%, then the complex sequence of events couldn't have worked. For example, if the gravitational constant, g, were a tiny bit larger, then black holes would not have originated soon enough for their amazing consciousness supporting presence to carry out our memory and embody our souls. So we can easily find ourselves slipping into the conclusion that the purpose of the universe is for physical structure to occur, so that sentient life can thrive. Some would say, getting farther away from the precepts of physical science alone, that the purpose is for love to originate and encompass the creation for the celebration of the Creator. If so, then we have a foundational basis for the moral law that must guide us. Everything that we do must foster and support the development of life and the protection of the natural environment given to it by its creator. We easily conclude that the ideal human life encourages all living beings, great and small, and recognize their places and needs. And how can we not appreciate and thank our Creator? And do we not glorify Him in His creation by deeper inspection and study of it all? Dr. Rudy Shield. Wonder if you have any thoughts on that, Brian?
Well, we've talked about this before, and it just seems that science is so limited with what they can talk about when it comes to cosmic science, because they're so limited by what they're working with to try to figure it out by. And so they're missing out on the whole spiritual science. I really enjoyed this email, and your response was pretty good too. What you're about to say. What do you have to say about that?
I think what is fascinating about Dr. Rudy Schild's sharing is that they are discovering through scientific means that a moral law moves through all of incarnate life. And I think that tells us quite a bit.
Hopefully science will catch up or start to be open to different ways of measuring the things that are not material.
Right.
But they're not going to be able to use material means to do it. I mean,
Well, and
to a degree, but
well, the interesting thing about it is that we can approach it from both the material means and the spiritual means. And this is among the great mysteries of God, you know. So, in response to Dr. Schild, I wrote this little article on the science and moral law. And this is some of what I stated. I said, if this is true, what does that tell us? What does this really mean for all of us? We know we are mortal beings. We know we will die. We know our existence here is temporary. Yet most of us would concur that the soul is immortal and lives eternally. So if this is true and all creation has been designed for the sole purpose of physical embodiment, why? Why would something so important also be so temporary? Further, if this is true, it throws everything materialists have believed about physical reality on its heels, but yet, at the same time, it throws much of what religion, mysticism, and the spiritual beliefs of many peoples on its heels as well, by demonstrating that the physical journey is more important, so relevant as to require the entire universal system to be based on perfect mathematical accuracy to ensure this outcome. Whichever camp you come from, material or spiritual, your world has been completely changed by this scientific revelation. In Dr. Shield's discoveries, we find an argument for a congruency to life, laws which could define forward, backward, and steady action, and thus motion, which could translate into mathematical formulas which can show expansion, retraction, or consistent motion within the movement of universal creation. Imagine how important this possibility has suddenly become in your world and mind if actions have mathematical and thus energetic import. What does this mean about you and me? So moving forward, we go back to Dr. Schild's comments, in particular, quote, the purpose is for love to originate and encompass the creation for the celebration of the Creator. You can read this entire article in its entirety um, in the book The Change. You can also read it in Out of Body Travel and Mysticism. But, you know, in the conclusion of the article, it says, science and the moral law have always been united, but today let us gather in their joining and announce to the world the excitement and adventure which lays beyond because of this revelation. Our former worlds have passed away, the worlds of those of us who were among the materialists and the worlds of those of us who were among the spiritually minded. And today we have seen something new, something that has engaged us in a rapid encounter with the universal intelligence which created us for this moment. And we may now choose that this moment will bear fruit in every single one of our lives, because it really is that simple. Love one another, do good, avoid evil, allow contentment to arise. So now I'd like to kind of start bringing people back up from this meditative place we've been traveling. So I'm going to count from 1 to 10. And with each of these, you're going to come back closer and closer to consciousness, thousandfold with each number. So with 1, you can start feeling some tingling in your feet and your toes.
And perhaps with that, we could add namaste, because you have 10 greetings that are coming up, and there's 10 seconds bringing people back 1,000-fold each time.
Let's do it.
Namaste is a Hindu greeting. I bow to the divine in you.
1. And then number 2, Jai Janendra, victory over sustainable happiness, the Zionist greeting. 2. 3, Sat Sri Akal, the eternal truth, seek. 4, Shalom Aleichem, peace be upon you, Jewish. 5, Hamazor Hama Ashobed, I am fine and hope you are too, Zoroastrian. 6, Buddha Namo, in the name of the Buddha, Buddhist. 7, my peace I give you, my peace I leave with you, Christian. 8, peace be with you, Christian. 9, Az salam o alaikum, as peace be upon you, Islamic. 10, Allah Abho, glorious God, Baha'i. Now come back to consciousness as you feel comfortable. Taking with you everything you've learned today and taking it with you in the many myriad ways, conscious, unconscious, subconscious, spirit, so that now your entire body and soul can integrate this into the practice that you will now embody to seek to have an out-of-body experience, but knowing that having the out-of-body experience is just the beginning. It's a tool that will take you into a much deeper place and take you towards union with God.
Great. Thank you so much, Marilyn. That was amazing. Some really great stuff there.
Thank you, Brian.
I really recommend getting those books. And if you're an audio person, which I am now, I used to not be. I used to read like crazy. And then all of a sudden I'm like, nope, now I listen to audio all the time. But they're really great. They're produced really well. And it's something I can do whenever I want. When I'm driving or if I'm at work or washing dishes. I have my little earbuds, I pop them in. But it's just like when we talked about all these different masters and we did all of these quotes, and each one has a little bit of energetic truth that God gave to them for them to give to us. And so each one of those, you probably notice, it's like my wife, she has like, I don't know, 3,000 crystals and minerals, and there's so many different ones. It's the same with the different masters and teachers and prophets and sages and mystics, and they all have a little bit of the energy. So you probably noticed, like I did, every time she read a different quote from somebody else, it was always like a little bit of a shift of energy. So listen to those and go into it, take the guidance. And I think this is something that is going to be great experience for everybody.
Awesome. I hope it is. And we'll be taking it even further. We're going to go into another series we'll be working on about becoming, a true mystic, a deep mystic. And that one will be called the Tao of Mysticism, where we will go deeply into the mystical life and how you actually become a mystical warrior in God's army.
Sounds cool.
So, take this, begin, but you have plenty more for which you can continue to ascend towards, and we'll continue throwing it out there.
All right. Thank you again, Marilyn. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, everyone, as well.